This episode contains the statements and opinions of the individuals participating. The claims being made are by no means reflective of the endorsements, views, or position of MomSpace&Co.
Hello, company, and welcome to another episode of TalkSpace&Co, the podcast by MomSpace&Co. What's up, team?
Hey, what's up? What's up?
All right, so I'm here with my... I'm here with my co-host Lynn, Micheal, Treese, and Star. And of course, we have definitely some hot topics to talk about this week. So let's just jump right into it.
All right. So we have a bunch of hot topics that are trending this week, things that we need to know, things that we want to know, and things that we want all of our company to know. So Antonia, go ahead and pop the cork. Raise your glasses, ladies.
This is my favorite part. I've been waiting for this for a long time. Y'all ready?
Ooh. So what are we drinking? What is that?
We got rosé today.
I've never had rosé. Let's see how this goes. So I'll just take a little bit because I don't know how this is gonna go for me. She gives me more. Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Good.
Yes, that's good.
Y'all ready? Micheal, you don't look like. Just drink it.
Do you like it?
Rosé is a no-go. No, thank you.
No.
Woo.
Meanwhile,
it all goes down the same.
So
thank you, Star. Cheers. Thank you.
It's a no for me.
I was going to say,
Ooh, that's actually really good.
no, Gemini's vote no on the rosé. I'll stick to the reds. The news has been popping. So we're going to start off with a very tragic story. We lost Michael K. Williams, phenomenal actor from The Wire, Lovecraft Country. We're all 90s kids here. So I know y'all remember 100% Pure Love. He actually choreographed that. So we actually lost him to a drug overdose coming off of a weekend where we lost 3 comedians also to a drug overdose in Venice, California. They do know that drug usage has increased as a result of the pandemic.
Alfred and I we were talking about that, about fentanyl. I don't know if I watch a lot of drug documentaries on Netflix and see them how they cut it and how they just say it's more addictive and it gets the cost up for, like the people who are on it, like they fiend for it if they don't pass, unfortunately. But he was just telling me that like even weed now, they're just lacing weed with fentanyl. And now I have a tween and I can't say that he's going to try it. I doubt it. But then that kind of makes me scared to say, like, what if he ended up just smoking weed? Like weed is supposed to be one of the things that is less harmful or, I don't want to say more.
They say that it is and always will be the gateway drug. So you start with weed and then it's not enough and then you need more. So you go to something stronger and that's where, the lacing.
But then again, I don't know. Weed is always that one conversation that can go left or right, But like if my kid ever decided, hey mom, I want to try it, I know I can't go buy that stuff off the street or like, so it's like, even if, I don't know, my mind just went left to where it was like, what if my son decided to try, not knowing it was laced or whatever the case may be. But I don't know, like, to me, I only put fentanyl with like crack, cocaine, heroin. Now it's weed. So now it's just like, oh no, it's just mind blowing.
We've watched enough movies, like, and the kids too, and we've had the conversation, like, you don't take nothing from no one because you don't know what they're putting in it. Like, and they're old enough to know. Like, yeah.
I agree because people don't have to give you the disclosure as to how they make it. They just tell you, it's weed, it's a new strand, like they put all these cute little names on it. So they don't necessarily have to release that information, I don't think. So it just makes it really dangerous.
The interesting thing with the Michael K. Williams situation, though, is that they're actually looking for the drug dealer, which says to me that whatever he took or whatever was given to him, they want off the street immediately because they know it's going to kill a lot more people. And I mean, and that's the honest to God's truth. You never know. Like I had a friend back in high school, smoked weed, which I don't think weed is a gateway drug. Like that's my personal opinion. That's my personal belief. But he smoked weed and somebody laced it with a horse tranquilizer, and he came in one day and was sick out of his mind. And we couldn't figure out what was going on. And then finally they told him, and they did it as a joke, because when you're doing these things with other kids, they don't realize the severity sometimes of the situation.
Yeah, especially there's like vaping and all of that stuff now. I think that, I don't know, I think it's a good conversation to have, and maybe a little fear won't hurt them.
See, that's my thing. I don't think fair works, because here's my personal opinion. If you tell somebody don't do something,
that's when they do
their
it.
first inclination to do is to do. So it's almost like, do I tell my kids don't do drugs, or do I just talk to them openly more about the effects of drugs? So it's like, again, these parties may be happening, or like, you know, you're linking up with a friend that you supposedly trust, or it could be a family member who passes you a J, or whatever the case may be, and they don't even know what's in it, you know? And then think I mean, I had my run-ins with weed, but again, it was not my thing. So I knew that I wasn't gonna be doing it.
I agree.
You know, like, it's just scary now. Like now, I need a legal dealer if my kid wants to try drugs.
All you can do is talk to your kids, and they're gonna make their own decisions. Like we made our own, thinking we're grown.
Absolutely.
And all you can do is talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
My mom was, before she got her doctorate, she was a substance abuse counselor. And so she liked to talk about drugs a lot, but we got to see it firsthand because her side of the family was heavy on drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Her dad was on drugs, her dad's wife, her dad's wife's daughters, they all lived together. So we got to see what addiction was personally. I can't say that it was enough to scare me. Mm-hmm. Like it was like one of those experiences where it was like, I don't want to do that. Or, you know, I don't want to be like them, but, you know, it wasn't like fearful, you know, like anything like that. But we had those conversations where she would point out things and be like, oh, this is what happens when you do drugs or anything like that. But I don't think she led off fear. I think it was more so she just wanted me to know, like, this is what could happen. And, you know, everything else was my decisions to make. But of course, you know, being young, you try anything. Like, if my friends were doing it, honestly, I did it too.
So how about this?
Yes, the Texas abortion law.
The Texas abortion law.
Yeah. So Texas has
talking about this?
Huh?
Are we going there? Are we talking about this?
Fortunately, unfortunately.
We're going to talk about it because, I mean, you know what? Nothing's taboo in MomSpace&Co. TalkSpace&Co, the official podcast of MomSpace&Co, said same thing. Nothing's taboo. We understand we've got a tribe. Some of them have had abortions. Some of them are right now considering abortions, listening to this. Some of them are in a situation where they're like, absolutely not, I would never have an abortion. We have to realize the tribe is full of everybody, and we recognize everybody and respect everybody's opinions no matter what. So we are going to talk about it, and we're going to talk about it from just a factual standpoint. I'm not going to say it's wrong. I'm not going to say it's right. Several major corporations have now moved out of Texas as a result. They said, we will not stay there. So Salesforce is one. They're gone. So Salesforce, just so people know, is a CR. But yeah, so they're like, we're done. We're not going to stay here. We're moving our business elsewhere. One of the things that really got me about this law is that anyone who sees or aids in an abortion is guilty. So if you send me a text message and say, hey, I'm getting an abortion, and I reply, okay, I'm now brought into the mix and could possibly face legal ramifications as well. So yeah, so Texas abortion law, basically, for those who don't know, it basically says that after 6 weeks, you cannot get an abortion under any circumstances. And for me personally, knowing some moms who've had to carry full term, knowing that their fetus was not alive, this one bothers me because I can't imagine having to carry a dead fetus to term because my state says I can't have an abortion.
I think that it's absolutely ridiculous to tell a woman what she has to do with her body. I think that that's our right. Like, you wouldn't tell a guy he can't nut in her. Like, I mean, I'm just gonna say it. Like, you can't.
Go there. Go.
Try and tell a guy that and see what happens.
Why are they trying to regulate our bodies? We're not the ones.
Saying.
It's the men. It's the men that are, I mean, it takes two, but at the same time, you're the one that carries the stuff to get me pregnant. Regulate your ball sacks, my guy.
Exactly. Like you're not giving men a cap on how many women you can have sex with or how many times you can nut in a woman a year. Or, you're not doing that. So I mean, I'm somewhere between pro-life and mind your business. Like, let people do what they're going to do and make the decisions they're going to make and deal with them, how they are going to deal with them. And
but my question is, does anybody ever feel that abortion is abused at times?
Absolutely.
So that's where because obviously I'm a woman, I've had 4 kids, like I get it, but I feel like when it's being abused, that's a difference. So that's what's making it harder for the women who actually need to have it for.
Say that because they didn't say that. They're not putting a cap on IDs. Like, okay, your ID, you had 2 abortions in 3 years already, or this year already. They're not saying that. They're not saying it by case situation. Like when you go to the doctor, they run your medical information. So I could see if it was abusive thing. Like, okay, so you're abusing the system. You can no longer get any more abortions. Like this is it. Like I remember being in high school and my friends kept getting pregnant and going with them because it was like, yep, you're pregnant, and they're like, yeah, I'm gonna go get an abortion. Can you go? Sure. Like, and at that time they were abusing it because of course we were young. They didn't want their parents to know, but I've been in that situation where I've seen women abuse it, the system. And if they're worrying about somebody abusing them, there's ways to do that because you have a medical record. So then put a cap on it.
Yeah, I would say that if you do find women that are abusing the system, there's something more to it, and there's more wrong with them. And I'm going to say that from my own personal experience. I did not have to have an abortion, but I had to use the medication that's used for an abortion. And it's taken vaginally. So you actually take 4 tablets and you insert them inside your body, and then your body contracts and spews all that out. It is the worst pain you are ever going to feel. Yeah. And it's so bad that they will actually give you a narcotic. I opted out of the narcotic because I don't like being loopy. So, but they will give you a narcotic to go through it. So I'm like, any woman that willingly does that over and over and over and over and over again, something else is wrong. And that's what needs to be addressed. Something else is wrong.
I think so too. But they're not even saying that. They're just saying flat out, period. Like no excuses. You can't have one. No, no.
But I guess my question, and a good question, would be what led them to actually put this law into effect? True. What was the reasoning for this law?
And then what do you also have to gain? Because like Tracy said, you're giving what civil, they're doing civil, you're suing people. So like, is this a money thing? Like, do they want to be able to come after people and, support the economy that pretty much crashed? You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
you're going to have people setting up businesses, watching people like, okay, bam, we're going to sue her. They're going to give people medical records. They're going to be following people.
You have people protesting outside abortion clinics. Like every time I pass by abortion clinic, there's somebody with a sign up sitting out there. So who's to say they can't figure out who you are and come after you for that? Like
these scammers you're gonna have after this, because they're gonna be like, oh, we got something new, we can just sue them civilly. They're gonna have people in court all day.
Well, it's gonna be a mess. And I mean, you're gonna have snitches. I don't know if you guys know, like
it's gonna be people that work in medical offices.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, when you live in Atlanta, people would snitch on you to get your car towed. I can imagine what they're gonna do for abortions.
I think the whole situation is sad, and it makes me sick, and it makes me emotional, and it makes me super triggered that we're even having this conversation, because it shouldn't be a conversation. Whether you're pro-life or not, it shouldn't be a debate. It should be your choice as to what you want to be. And that's just that.
Again, we're about minding our business and doing what you need to do. But now if you pass this law and let's just say I've had enough kids and me and my husband had a good night and oops, I've had another baby and I don't want it. And we have both agreed on it. Now you're forcing this kid into my life when we can't afford it. So are you now telling me I shouldn't have sex or a good night with my husband? Like,
but even bigger, are you going to support this baby?
No, because then they don't want to put you on food. They don't want to give
you
you food stamps. They don't want to give you any assistance.
It shouldn't be a double-edged sword. It should be like, if you require me to have this baby and I can't afford it, I'm going to be able to get the help that I need as well.
But, you know, talking about abortion, we are actually going to play a clip from one of our former guests. I will give you guys a trigger warning as what she's about to talk about. And then what you're about to hear is, it's pretty intense. And she unfortunately was the victim of her stepfather sexually abusing her from a very early age until she was able to leave in her late teens. So this is Petra describing what took place for her.
Wait, so I'm so sorry to cut you off, but you were pregnant with his child?
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Because I was not with another partner until after my stepfather, everything had ended.
Right.
And so, I knew, like, there's no other way. Like, it's yours. And there was no fight over it. It was like he was happy.
Wow.
Like he'd been wishing for it, and it disgusted me, like, to my core. And I'm like, I'm taking care of this. Like, you're taking care of this. We're taking care of this. No. And I'm like, okay, you continue to sit here and tell me no, but I have the right to go do what I want. So it's either you take me to go take care of this, or I'm telling mom and she's taking me to go take care of it.
Right.
So that of course changed his mind. So I am 15 years old. It is Christmas Eve. My mom and my stepdad are working, and I am at home having an abortion by myself.
Wow.
That's
Sickening. Disgusting.
So did her mom, I need to, her mom didn't know about it at all?
So when you listen to the episode, and I think it's going to be an episode that we'll add to our exclusive content. In the episode, she describes that she feels like her mother did know, but it was kind of like a don't ask, don't tell situation.
Okay.
So that's really what she was kind of like dealing with. She said she's disclosed to her mother since they were able to break free of her stepfather. She's disclosed to her mother what took place. But as far as conversations as a child with her mother about surrounding what took place, it was kind of like a don't ask, don't tell situation. So.
Wow.
But that also goes into the fact that luckily she lived in a state where she could get an abortion done, because being a teen mom is hard enough, but I can't imagine being a teen mom under those circumstances.
Yeah.
It saddens me that there are people in this world that exist like that, and that we have to go through it, and we have to endure it, and we have to make it out to talk about it so that we can reach other people. And it's just sad.
Well, hopefully these other states don't make the same dumb decision that Texas did. But it's like once one does it, they feel like, oh, well, we can do it as well. And like Antonia said, it's a way to control a lot of things. So I wouldn't be surprised if the next states just start doing the same thing.
Hopefully not. Well, company, when we come back, we are going to join Keli Webb Esq, attorney at law, who is going to tell us about the legalities surrounding the Texas law and abortion in general. See you soon.
The nation is once again in the battle over abortion. And joining us for some insight on the legalities of the topic is Attorney Keli Webb Esq. Welcome, Keli. Thanks for joining us this evening.
Hi, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes, Keli, thank you for joining us. I know you heard the clip that we just played about Petra, one of our former guests, and I think it was definitely relevant to the topic that we're discussing today. So we're just going to lead in with a couple of questions, and thank you again for coming on and giving us some ideas about legally what abortion looks like from a legal aspect.
Absolutely.
So could federal law go into effect that sets the precise time for when life begins?
That's a really good question. So kind of taking it back a little bit, in the 1890s, way back when, before abortion was really even a matter of law, the way it worked was that a woman's pregnancy was determined, and it was known as the quickening. So whenever she first felt a fetus moving was when pregnancy was considered to have begun. So I think that having a federal law that actually, prescribes when life begins in terms of weeks or months is probably not out of the realm of possibility, considering the fact that, like I said, the way the law used to work was that the quickening was determined when a woman was pregnant. And prior to Roe v. Wade, Congress actually made that determination and divided pregnancy into trimesters, right? So first, second, third trimester. First trimester, abortion was available to anyone who needed it. Second trimester is when abortion was not banned, but it was regulated. So if a woman had a medical condition, or if the pregnancy posed a risk to her life, then abortion was legal. And then in the third trimester, the only way you could have an abortion is if there was a harm or risk of imminent death, essentially. So even though I would shudder to think that a federal law would actually tell us when life begins, it's really not impossible. After you're looking at Senate Bill 8 out of Texas and seeing exactly how restrictive that law is and all the things that it seeks to regulate, I would not be surprised if that happened, unfortunately.
So I'll chime in, because when you say I remember the quickening that you're talking about, those flutters, I mean, that can happen as late as, or as early as, I don't know, maybe, I try to think, it was maybe like 3 months or so when you would that first, the first, and I mean, that seems like a long, that's pretty far in the pregnancy to consider abortion. So, I mean, I don't see that it's impossible. Like you said, I don't think that it's, some may disagree, but I don't think it's the worst thing to have some kind of regulation on, what's a legal abortion and what's not a legal abortion.
Well, and so I understand what you're saying. And the issue that I have is that every pregnancy is different for every woman, right? So some women don't have any symptoms at all. Some women begin to feel something later on. I mean, I've had friends who were pregnant and were very concerned because up until about 4 or 5 months, they didn't feel anything. And they were constantly going back to the doctor saying, do I need an ultrasound? Do I need this? Do I need that? And they would say, the baby's fine. Every pregnancy is different. Every pregnancy is different. That's what we're always told. So my concern is that if there is a federal regulation basically telling us when life begins, how is that going to look for someone who doesn't fit that mold? So, I mean, that's kind of the scary thing. And, determining when you're pregnant, kind of going back to the Texas heartbeat law. A lot of times when you first take a pregnancy test early, you can test negative and still be pregnant. And, a lot of times women who are not pregnant, but have just recently had a miscarriage, those hormones are still in your body. So if you take a pregnancy test too soon, it'll say that you're pregnant. It'll come up positive when you're not. So I think the problem that I have with regulating such a, I guess, an unstable is probably the best word I could think of, you know, standard is the thing that really gets me, because everybody is different. And, you know, to try to have our government tell us when life begins is quite frightening to me. The ramifications of that, I feel like, are really far reaching. And I think that that's the slippery slope that we talk about in terms of federal government reaching in. You know, people always want to talk about small government. You know, we don't want the federal government infringing on our privacy. We don't want them regulating everything that we do. So if we get a law that says, hey, guess what, guys, life begins at 6 weeks gestation. What about the women who didn't even know they were pregnant?
No, that makes sense. And I think that it's such a hard discussion. So do you think that with Texas now doing it, it's going to be easier for other states to piggyback on that and do the same thing?
Absolutely. And to me, that's really the scary part about this law. And I'm not sure how much you want me to go into about the law. I'm not going to repeat my presentation from the weekend, because it was like an hour.
It's definitely good to know.
Okay, so the essence of the SB8 law is, it's called the heartbeat law. So basically what it says is a woman cannot have an abortion after the fetal heartbeat is detected. And the statute kind of puts that around 6 weeks is when they decide that. So they say after 6 weeks, unless there is a medical need to protect the mother's life or the likelihood that the pregnancy will not continue, after that 6 week mark, you can't get an abortion. Prior to that 6 week mark, an abortion would be considered legal for any reason, whether it's medical or choice. Now, again, going back to what I said before, the issue about the heartbeat determination, again, is tricky, right? Because sometimes you have an ultrasound, doctor can't even find it, you know, or how many times have we heard of the surprise where people go in and they think it's one baby and they find 2 or 3? I mean,
it's actually, with my recent pregnancy, they didn't even schedule my first appointment until maybe 8 weeks. So now that I think of that, they're like, no, you don't need to come in until at this point. So that's also, yeah, that's a good point too.
Right. I mean, and that's really scary, because you know, I've had, again, friends, or you hear things about women who had a menstrual cycle or a pseudo menstrual cycle, like way far into their pregnancy, or sometimes all the way through, they had bleeding, or what they, like I said, like they considered it was their menstrual cycle, but it really wasn't. But again, a lot of women don't even know that they're pregnant. They miss a period, if their periods are irregular, that's not really a trigger for them to take a test or to go to the doctor. And so kind of like with you, when a woman finds out she's pregnant, she may already be 8 to 9 weeks along and not know. So with the SB8, 6 weeks is kind of the marking point, and then beyond, abortion is illegal. Now, one of the things I really want to point out, because a lot of people talk about, you brought up rape, incest, molestation, things like that. So this law absolutely does not speak to that. It does not give an exception for those things. What it does is, and let me backtrack. So SB8 is a civil law. It is not criminal. So the difference is, criminal law, we all know you can be sent to jail, you can be fined, prosecuted, like everybody kind of knows that. Civil litigation is completely different. So your remedies are in court are monetary damages, injunctive relief, where you ask the court to stop someone from doing something, enjoining relief, so you ask the court to make someone do something. So those are like your civil remedies. So this SB8 law is purely civil. And what it does is, if you find out that a woman has had an abortion after the fetal heartbeat has been detected, you can sue her in civil court for no less than $10,000. So that's the minimum, okay? And interestingly enough, this law sets a minimum, but not a cap. So essentially, you can go into civil court and say, I want to sue this person for $500,000. And guess what? You are going to have to litigate that matter. You're going to have to. So
now, is this the doctors or like anyone that, I know they talked about the doctors could be charged as well if they perform it, but like who are you referring to? Like the father, or who could sue that woman?
Anybody.
I did. It was like a yeah. If I knew about it, and I did read that.
So there's two. Yeah. So there's two parts. There's three subsections to the main part of the law, like where it talks about the fetal heartbeat at 6 weeks, you can't have an abortion, right? So that's that first part. So then there's three subsections. So the first part is anyone who, like you said, it covers the doctor. So if you did it, right? So if you perform the abortion, you're civilly liable. The second part is anyone who knew and aided and abetted a woman in getting an abortion after the heartbeat is detected, you can be sued. The third part.
Wait. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to stop you right there. I have to say, if anybody ever sent me a text message saying I'm about to get an abortion, I got sued for $500,000, I'm burning the courthouse down. I just want y'all to know that.
I know that's right.
500. No.
Yeah. Again, and the numbers can skyrocket because there's no cap. But yeah, so the second part is anyone who knew, right? So kind of like what Tracy said, if you were sent a text message or this person has a conversation with you and says, I'm getting an abortion on Saturday, someone finds out she knew that, they can sue her. They can sue the woman, but they can sue Tracy directly, okay? And then the third part about that is anyone who intended to know. Now, that to me is kind of strange because if you have the intent, so the example I used in my presentation was, say your girlfriend says, hey, I have to have an abortion, I'm going to the clinic, or I need a ride to the clinic. Your intention is to call her an Uber, but you get busy, you have other stuff going on, you can't do it. So you didn't actually help her, but you intended to help her. You're civilly liable. If anyone finds out you intended to help her have an abortion, they can haul you into court and sue you for however amount of money that they choose. And I think I heard someone talking about an Uber driver or, whatever. Yeah, absolutely. Uber, Lyft, they actually put out a statement saying, if you get into our vehicles, if you're using our rideshare company and you get into the vehicle, do not tell the driver your business.
Why is Roe versus Wade on the chopping block so often?
It's a really good question. First and foremost, I think that this country has its priorities completely backwards. So, for us to have been founded on such awful and immoral principles, slavery built this country. And it's so ironic that something so awful and heinous, which is the foundation of our country, now we have the nerve to turn around and try to be moral police and try to tell everybody what's right and what's wrong, when it's like from this country's inception, we were wrong, right? So, that's kind of a mess to me. But what I think Roe v. Wade is always on the chopping block is because Roe v. Wade is a perfect sort of test case for your constitutional rights. So the 14th Amendment, let me back up. There is no actual amendment that guarantees your right to privacy. But the 14th Amendment basically says there's equal protection under the law. So it's saying, hey, all of these laws in the Bill of Rights are going to be encompassed. And so your right to privacy is sort of implied within that. So the issue then basically becomes, what rights does the Constitution guarantee you? And I think when you kind of go back to, I knew that was good. When you kind of go back to the economic piece of it, which is really kind of what I wanted to point out from your question. Back in I guess it was the late 1850s was when the American Medical Association was formed. And so at this time, remember, their abortions are legal. Well, midwives, homeopaths, they were giving medications and doing whatever they needed to do to assist women to have abortions. Well, now you have the AMA. The AMA says there's competition. The doctors are not getting as much business because there are these other remedies to have an abortion. So now, from an economic standpoint, we have an interest in protecting the medical machine. And so we're going to make abortions illegal so that these other people cannot participate. And now that trickles down in every situation when you look at economics, right? Because this bill says you're going to be sued for a minimum of $10,000. And guess what? In defending yourself, you can't recoup attorney's costs and fees. So the person who sued you, even if you win, you can't get your attorney's fees. But the person that sued you gets attorney's fees and costs. So you're basically saying, I'm going to pay you to sue other people. So the defendant is on the receiving end of basically the economic damage and the punishment. And so, you know, in my opinion, everything in the law goes back to money. It goes back to money. And then there's the race issue as well, because when abortion was legal, people were aborting their babies and doing whatever they needed to do. And so at that time, the nativists, you know, the people who were, you know, the white males basically coming from signing the Constitution and enacting all of those things, they were scared. They were scared that white women were going to start having abortions in droves and that the indigenous people population was going to increase. So in an effort to kind of keep that number down and make sure that the other numbers were stable, if not higher, they said, we're going to let these women have abortions. I'm sorry, we're going to limit the abortions so that basically these brown people can't explode in population. I think we see the same things now.
I would say that's even in reverse, because if you live in a major city, you automatically know all the abortion clinics are in the Black and brown neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. So it's like that's a double-edged sword right there. That's insane. That's crazy.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's, you know, and like I said before, I think the interest in regulation of just about everything, when you really think about it, it comes down to money, right? Money and power and position. So population control has always been an issue.
So Kelly, I have to ask the hard question, and you kind of touched on it a little bit. If you don't have medical access to get an abortion, there have been in the past, women have gone to back alley abortions and things of that sort. So from a legal standpoint, let's say it gets to a point in Texas where women start resorting back to back alley abortions. We know that some of the consequences of those can be infertility. Could that woman then sue the person that performed the back alley abortion on her, or is she at a loss?
To answer your question, no. A woman would have no remedies under the law to sue someone for infertility because it would be considered an elective, you know, matter. It's an elective choice. You chose to have a back alley abortion. You knew that there were some consequences and that there may be some permanent damage. I mean, just really with any medical procedure, even if you go to a hospital, right? Like they tell you all the risks before surgery. They have you sign away your life so that if something happens, your family can't come back in and sue unless there's negligence. That's a whole nother issue. But no, to address your question, if a woman suffers some consequences from that, she's at a loss.
Wow.
I have a curveball question. I don't know if you covered it, but I just feel like, can this be legal? Like, clearly it is, but like, what? None of this is, it doesn't add up. I don't care. Like, I don't even have any words, because it's just like, now you're going into a different form of control. And like, now, I don't know. It's just, how can this be? Or like, is there anything to like counteract it? Can this go on for like the rest of our lives? Like,
yeah. Yeah, no, I understand. I mean, when I saw that this was, you know, a possible piece of legislation before it even was enacted, I was horrified. I'm like, what? But now that it's passed, it would have to be repealed. So the same people who passed the law would have to take it away. That's not going to happen. The issue then becomes, a lot of questions I have is about federal versus state. So which one trumps? Because a lot of people say, well, the Constitution says, the Constitution. Yeah, that's federal law. So federal law applies to the nation. State law obviously applies to the states. States have a lot of latitude in terms of what it is that they want to do, in terms of how they want to set up the laws in their state. Then as long as those laws do not infringe upon the federal law's ability to regulate said whatever it is, you know, in the act, as long as the federal law is not abridged, or, you know, if there's nothing that interferes with that, state law trumps. So right now, Texas can do whatever they want. Federally, the United States Supreme Court someone would have to litigate SB8, and it would have to go, first of all, it would go in state court, which obviously it probably wouldn't win. Then it would have to go to federal state court, likely wouldn't win. Appellate court, and then you kind of go up the chain. If it eventually makes it to the Supreme Court, they could overturn it, but look at the makeup of our court. That's probably not going to happen either.
Well, Keli, I want to thank you so much for joining us and having this conversation with us and discussing the legalities surrounding abortion and actually the law in Texas. If somebody wanted to see you, talk to you, what is your contact? How do they get in touch with you? How do they get to know more about Keli Webb Esq, my friend?
Well, thank you for asking. And again, thank you, ladies, for having me. I really appreciate the platform. It's something I'm very passionate about, as you can probably tell. And so I really appreciate the time that you've allowed me. So Keli Webb, I am the founding and managing partner of the Webb Law Group, LLC. So my website is www.theweblawgroup.com. You can reach my office. I'm headquartered in St. Louis, Missouri, 314-266-9609. And you can email me. So Keli is a little different. It's Keli. And so my email address is kelly@theweblawgroup.com.
Perfect. Thank you. And we'll make sure to add all of that in all of our show notes because, yeah, we'll get you covered.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate
so much for this conversation. It's definitely been eye-opening, especially, just mentioning how we can try our best to make a difference with, within our state and within our own community as well. But we got some work to do because this cannot.
Yeah.
This is insane.
Yeah. It's really scary. And I think the biggest thing about this, which I think is the good part, is that it is civil, which means it's money and people get funny about money. Mm-hmm. So if you tell somebody, hey, you might be on the hook for $1 million, I think some of these people will start changing their tune.
So thank you so much for tuning in. Please be, wow, rude. Please be, chill. Be sure to catch us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, your favorite streaming platform, and also newly our YouTube channel, MomSpace&Co, the podcast. No, MomSpace&Co, TalkSpace&Co, the podcast. A lot of space, but and don't forget to follow us on Instagram at MomSpace&Co. What else am I missing? Check us out on our website, MomSpace&Co.com. We've got some really good things coming up. I say that loosely, but really we got some good episodes coming. All right. Talk to y'all.